Welcome to our preview. Once again, Cinema One and Only, number 16 for week April 3rd through April 9th. This is our second Easter week. I'm Mr. J, and we start off with our usual deep astrology weekly horoscope from the Leo King, and that continues into our meditation music, which is usually 2 to 3 hours long if we present it. Some weeks we skip to other presentations. This is Hugs and Kisses. Wonder who that is. Love and Spoonful. This is our guitarist, Dan Holloway. We have a section devoted to him that will be coming up. And we're dedicating a lot of time this week to Dave Brubeck. This is a live presentation from the Lincoln Center. Dave Brubeck, famous for Take 5 and other compositions. Get into some of our Saturday sessions from CBS Morning Network show. And music that we like to listen to. Johnny Cash, full show. Dedicated some time to Merle Haggard this week. Here's the Dan Holloway section. A lot of nice songs. If you're a guitar enthusiast, you might want to learn some of these, and they're really good to watch. You can see the finger pattern style that he uses for finger picking and chord progressions. Then we come to our spiritual section that begins with our drone flights. And this is our home area, taking you to an area that is not our home area, but one that we're studying in our spiritual section. We're finding that a lot of the Anunnaki information leads us to Africa. So doesn't the UFO information and the Nibiru information, all leading us up to events happening today. We have a new violinist we're introducing you to. Hanin. This is from the Woodstock concerts. We've been following a little bit each week. And this week we've got a large section devoted to the Grateful Dead at Woodstock. Then we get into some of the favorite music that I like. Songs that I'd like to learn. Which brings us into our features from the movies. So One and Only's duplicate of the last 100 years of entertainment in the movie theaters, TV, radio shows. We've been following Martin Lewis and the Rat Pack. each week we've been showing a silent horror gang feature. Yesterday's newsreels from the 1940s. And then our series threw in a pirate movie this week. We follow pirate movies whenever they happen to come up. And we have been following Sherlock Holmes right from the very first one. We had 4 more this week. And a Boston Blackie movie. We had one last week. It wasn't in this section though. It was towards the end of the playlist. The Return of the Whistler. This may disappear from here. I think we already had this. And Duffy's Tavern was a radio show. We have one exemplified here with Mickey Rooney guest starring. But this is a movie that they made based on the radio show and its success. Then we get into our music radio shows featuring Smiley Burnett and Sons of the Pioneers on these shows, which leads us into Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy shows. And this week we start a biography, really quite well done. It's long, so we put it in 3 parts every week, explaining how Edgar Bergen got into ventriloquism. How do you say that? How he became a ventriloquist. How's that? Jeff Dunham, another ventriloquist, and of course Darcy Lynn Farmer. Singing without a puppet this time. Back to Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy's old-time radio show with Abbott and Costello. So who is Abbott and Costello? We follow it up with a radio show so you can see who Abbott and Costello is. And this movie was not starring Abbott and Costello, but was the first one they ever appeared in or were featured in. This was one of their movies that they did star in. And Jimmy Durante in a 1930s movie, in a 1940s radio show, and in a 1950s TV program, and in a 1950 really good movie. Begins at Christmas time, and we do repeat this movie at Christmas time. It's a great movie for kids if you can get them interested in it. It's about a squirrel that, well, check it out. It's really good. Comic Weekly Man, which of course has Hopalong Cassidy, as well as Roy Rogers and Flash Gordon, and some other characters that appeared in the Sunday Weekly Comics. So we follow that up with a trailer of Hopalong Cassidy because the first Hopalong Cassidy movie is coming up soon. This is one of the Hopalong Cassidy movies. It says number 25, but I'm not sure on that. This is a TV show from the 50s with Hopalong. And a Roy Rogers TV show follows that. Jumping to a Roy Rogers movie. And then back to a Roy Rogers radio show. A Gene Autry radio show. A couple of songs from Gene. And then Serial, I think we're up to chapter 3 of Phantom Empire. And Trigger Trio with the Three Musketeers, just one this week, and one Durango Kid movie. Before we get into another Comic Weekly from 1952 this time. The other one was from 1951. And that brings us into the Flash Gordon comic strip and into the radio show. And from the radio show, we get into the serial Flash Gordon Chapter 4. And we have 3 more TV episodes of Rocky Jones, Space Ranger, and I believe these are the last 3. There might be one more next week, but I think these were the last 3. So if you don't see it next week, this is your last chance to see it on this playlist. Starman, this is probably about the 4th or 5th movie we've had. The last 3 weeks we've been running Starman movies. One week we had 2. And this is one of my favorite movies. Right up there with Star Wars. It was my favorite movie until Star Wars came out. This Island Earth. That used to be a hard to get movie too. And that brings us into Tarzan. We have 2 episodes from the Tarzan TV series this week. And we begin chapter 1 of the New Adventures of Tarzan from the 1930s. It's a serial. It's an exceptionally long chapter 1. It's 42 minutes long, I think. And we have a series of radio shows that aired in March of 1951 of Tarzan, and a little bit different format Tarzan radio show. We're up to episode 16 in the Diamonds of Ashur. Asher. You pronounce it. And another Tarzan episode, this time from 1952 on the radio, March 27th. It's on for quite a while. And another Tarzan serial on the radio, Tarzan and the Fires of Tor. And Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle, April 3rd, 1952. Now this brings us to the Superman section, REM. This is the song we're working on. This is my story, my favorite 1940s Superman. And we're also reading from the book that came along with the Superman radio shows. The Bulleteers. That is probably my most favorite of the Fleischer series of Superman cartoons. I would love to have a car like the Bulleteer. And last week we had 101 of Superman. This week we have Batman. Next week we'll have Wonder Woman. And these little shorts are really funny. Pardon the language in some of them, I hope. Adults only. Check it out. You will laugh your what off. You know what. All the way down to Star Wars. These are little satire animated 5-minute to 10-minute episodes. All right, and then Captain America, we're up to chapter 4 in the serial. Namer, this episode 3 just doesn't want to quit. This is the 3rd week I think we've seen this. Maybe even 4th. But episode 4 is new. And this is a must-see, The Flying Man. That was very well done. I'm not going to tell you anything about it. You just got to go see it. It's pretty amazing for amateur footage. Lone Ranger serial starts this week. This is the 2nd Lone Ranger serial. The Lone Ranger Rides Again. This is from the TV series, black and white, and this is color from the TV series. And about the same time was the Green Hornet, which was in color. And from the television series, think we're up in episode 16. We don't have too many more to go. The Shadow Strikes is a movie. I think that's the second movie that this particular actor made, is The Shadow. And Mickey Rooney is in quite a few things this week. Excuse me. Babyface Nelson is a true story. Takes place in the 30s, but it was made in the 50s, so sometimes you might see the music a little strange for the 1930 surroundings that they're filming. And once again, Mickey Rooney is on a TV show. This is like the 10th week of this particular show. And that's from 1954. These are little short clips of various stories, not stories, TV shows that were on in the 60s, from 1960 to 65. And this is a 1950s radio show that accidentally got put in here. I thought it was a TV show and it ended up being a radio show. Maybe we'll move that around next year. This is TV though, Amos and Andy. We have 3 Amos and Andy TV episodes, followed by a Topper TV episode. He's the only one that can see the 2 ghosts and their dog. Another color Three Stooges episode this week. And then the serials, we're up to chapter 4 now in this, The Adventures of Smiling Jack. We have chapter 5 and 6. And Dick Tracy, the complete serial. If you missed it, all 15 chapters are right here. You can watch the whole thing. Binge on it. And this is chapter 1 of a new serial of Dick Tracy. This was the second one. After this one, they made Dick Tracy Returns, 1938. So we are beginning that one this week. Now we jump to the radio shows, and Whatever Became of Captain Video begins a series of radio shows, continuing with the Jack Benny program. Fibber McGee and Molly and Our Miss Brooks, we have about 3 or 4 of those shows. Gunsmoke was an excellent Western. And the Lux Radio Theater this week with Clark Gable, Farewell to Arms. We had that as a movie a few weeks ago. My Friend Irma, this particular program, she meets her roommate, Jane. And we also have a preview from the Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis movie, My Friend Irma, where the same people that were on the radio were in this movie. And then this week's spiritual movies, Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, and Jacob. A really, really good storyline. It's narrated as you would read the Old Testament in the Bible. Very good. And this movie is a Mormon storyline of Jesus' appearance in America. Very important to check this out because we are studying in our other spiritual section how the Mormons link to the American Indians, which for a long time was thought to not be true. About a month or 2 ago, they did find evidence of a city that housed over 50 million people. And that was the city they were looking for that they couldn't find. They found one that only housed about 2 to 3 million people. And it wasn't big enough to corroborate the Book of Mormon that Joseph Smith had found. So now we have evidence that it is true, and that is where they landed when they came here from the Holy Lands. See the story of how they got here. And this is part 4 of The Day Christ Died. Wonderful story. It's a 24-hour period that gets into very, very amazing things that are archaeologically accurate that very few people take the time to find out about. And of course, we end our playlist again with our Lakeland video and our family albums. For those of you that are family and interested in it, the rest of you, it would bore you to death. But this we will show you is our weeklies. No, I'm going to stop calling these the weeklies, because these are the dailies. All right. I'll show you what the weeklies are at the end of this, but we show one disc a day from this series, and we're up to the 4th season of Smallville. That's the first disc. And this is sort of a catch-up week right now, because at the rate of one disc a day, we're using 7 discs a week from certain series and 4 and 5 from others. So what happens is we run into the next season of Smallville and continue that. So this week we are actually up to season 5 of Smallville. And the same with Lois and Clark. We are up to season 4 with Lois and Clark. And that was the last season of Lois and Clark. So instead of season 5, we switched over to Wonder Woman, which would be the complete first season. And then our next series was Superman. We have 4 series every day, so we run 1 disc a day. From Superman, there were 2 serials, so this was the 2nd serial. As we're catching up here, I'll show you after that we had Captain Marvel. And I think this is only 1 or 2 discs, so that would take care of 2 days. So then we jump to season 1, Superboy. And then season 2. And I hope you notice the difference in the actress playing Superboy. We'll come back to this and show it to you later, but that's the 2 actors. And then While those are playing, we have the Batman serial continuing, and then the Batman and Robin serial continuing, and that's from 1940. And after those run out, we have room for others. And we continue with following Gordon Scott and Buster Crabbe as Tarzan. We have the serial Mandrake the Magician. And these are running while the Superboy and Superman series is going. This is the 4th series that we continue. 1 disc a day. Flash Gordon Conquers the Universe. It's 2 discs in this collection. And this is a catch-up week, so Buck Rogers is our extras. I think that runs at the end of the Superboy series, or it might be at the end of the Flash Gordon. That would make more sense. Now this is what I meant by the weeklies. These are actually the weeklies. They run on the weekends, and we have 4 movies each weekend. And this is our 4th selection. Starts out with an animated series, usually, or a series geared towards the younger set. And this is the week that we have Treasure of the Hidden Planet. Last week we had this one. There are 2 discs in here, but this is the one we run this week. Alright, and that is followed by the 4th X-Men movie, which was Wolverine. And our 3rd selection this week is Batman Begins. We have a glare on that. And then we end up this week with Star Wars Episode 2. Alright, and that's it. That's it from Cinema One and Only. We will return again next week for another preview. Until then, from the Treehouse and from Cinema One and Only, bye-bye.